Thank you very much. It's very difficult to know what to say after my two colleagues have spoken and covered such a wide spectrum of issues that relate to Black theology. There's an old article, I think it was written by David Bosch in that documentary history on Black theology, which was edited by Wilmore and Cohn. And he suggests in that article that Black theology started when the first Christian missionaries arrived in the area which today we call as Angola, and had a few first converts. And there was a young African woman, Kim Pavita, who converted quite quickly to Catholicism and ended up starting what at that time was known as a sect, because she suggested that Jesus was black and that his disciples were black. And of course she was excommunicated from the church, and I think she was burnt and killed as a result of that. And he suggests that when we think Black theology, we should not even think of the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. We must realize that it was virtually impossible for Africans to be Christian without grappling with issues of identity and issues of what to do with this religion that was coming from outside, that did not seem to refer to them, to have space for them. Of course, if you go back to the early church, to St. Augustine and others, you might argue that even the Kimpavita paradigm is a much later paradigm of black Christianity, as it were. The problem with Black theology is the word black, as my colleague was saying earlier. There's nothing wrong with theology. I don't think people mind you doing theology, as long as you don't call it black. And why is that? Why has it been necessary to call it black? And just to add to some of the things that my colleagues have said, one of the terrible things of black life is religion. What do you do with religion when religion seems sometimes to make people accept their lot, to make people look ahead to an imaginary world and make that more real than the world in which they live? The level of consumption of religion among black people has always been great, and black theology was in part an attempt to understand this, to understand the propensity of Africans and black people in general to consume religion, and how to mitigate, if you like, the negative effects of this massive consumption of religion. Now, I see Bishop Umlwane here was looking at me and is saying that religion is a good thing. That there are some good things in it. One way of understanding the challenge that black theology has been trying to deal with is, of course, that famous, it's simplistic, but I think it is still telling, that famous saying, when the white man first came to our land, we had the land and they had the Bible. They said, let us pray. At the end of the prayer, they had the land and we had the Bible. And the challenge is, how can we use the Bible to get the land back? Can we use the Bible to get the land back? Is religion usable in the political and socio-political sphere? And can you use the Bible to get the land back without losing the Bible? Or do you use it to get the land back and then throw it away because it is the cause of your loss in the first place? And I think this is the question that Black theologians have raised. Raising that question alone is quite profound. But attempting to answer it is also important. And I think there are as many attempts to answer this question as there are Black theologians. And if I had time, I would try and plot some of the ways in which Black theologians have tried to answer this. Now, there's already been a suggestion that if we understand blackness as commitment to liberation, perhaps there is validity in continuing to talk about Black theology. One of the things that amazed me in the position that I hold now, the job that I do at the University of South Africa, is the extent to which very few other disciplines, except perhaps literature, have been overt about an attempt to link to blackness or Africanness. If you go to anthropology, you go to psychology, you don't find the same kind of overt attempt to try and produce a black anthropology or a black psychology. I think nowadays you may find that. And I think this is because of the extent to which religion is consumed by Black people. I read today an article about a prophet in Soweto. I think he's on Soweto TV every weekend. A young man who specializes in sexuality and sexual issues. And I believe his name in Shona means penis.
Okay.
And that makes him very popular, apparently. Now, the terror of religion continues in the Black community. All you need to do is to spend 3 hours watching Soweto TV during the weekend. And that's why you need Black theology. Because religion is not necessarily going to produce a positive result simply because it's religion. It's got to be interpreted, it's got to be linked to life, it's got to be, if you talk about liberation, you have to look at the relationship between liberation and salvation, for example, so that there is a bridge between the two, and the one doesn't exist on the one side and the other on the other side. Maybe I should stop here for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Prof.